Well, Australians now have a very clear choice when we go to the polls in 2025. Do we want to access and use all of the mineral wealth we have at our disposal in Australia, or do we want to please the rest of the world and become the canary in the coal mine, forgive the awful pun, and attempt to become the only nation on earth to run a major manufacturing economy on sun and wind? As of mid-morning today, that is the choice voters now have to make. Opposition Leader Peter Dutton is taking the biggest electoral risk in history, even outdoing, I believe, John Howard taking a GST to the voters in an election with his ambitious, expensive national building promise to run the country on a combination of nuclear energy and renewables with some solar and gas as backup. Here was Peter Dutton outlining the independent analysis done for his ambitious nuclear plans earlier today.
This is a plan which will underpin the economic success of our country for the next century. This will make electricity reliable, it'll make it more consistent, it'll make it cheaper for Australians, and it will help us decarbonise as a trading economy as we must. We have independent costings which provide that validation.
Well, as you'd expect, reaction was pretty immediate, with the usual suspects disagreeing, the Greens leader Adam Bandt and Labor's reaction from Chris Bowen.
Today, Peter Dutton has delivered a Christmas con job. Peter Dutton wants you to believe that he can introduce the most expensive form of energy and somehow that will reduce power prices.
Peter Dutton's nuclear delusion is a dangerous con job. It's a cover-up for more coal and it's a threat to people's safety.
Very interesting that it was not the Prime Minister himself, Anthony Albanese, who came out reacting today, but instead he shoved Chris Bowen out there, and Bowen was pretty pathetic. Peter Dutton and his energy spokesman Ted O'Brien made the point over and over that in signing up to the AUKUS nuclear submarine deal, Australia has already put its hand up as a nation to run nuclear operations in Australia, like servicing the submarines, part of the construction, and even agreeing to treat and dispose of nuclear waste. So why not nuclear power plants?
The Prime Minister signed up to the nuclear submarines and therefore sent a very clear message to Australians that there are no safety concerns about the latest technology in relation to nuclear. We spoke about disposal, and the government signed up to disposing waste, including the end-of-life reactors, under the AUKUS submarine agreement.
It's a great point, but I think the strongest arguments here are around reliable and clean energy over a longer period than solar and wind generators, and this crazy idea from Labor that we can do something that no one else in the world has ever done.
If you look at every other comparable economy around the world, of course, they have adopted or have signed up to a use of nuclear energy. We just can't pretend anymore that part-time power is going to run a full-time economy.
And you do have to ask, if it's good enough and safe enough for the United States, Canada, France, China, and of course dozens and dozens of others, why not here, in a huge continent that just happens to have one of the biggest reserves of uranium on the planet? Why put our economy and the comfort of our people, and that's what they're doing, Labor, at risk, chasing a green dream that seriously we as a country will have little impact on globally? If Labor thinks this climate crisis is as bad as people like Chris Bowen keep telling us, why not then ban the export of fossil fuels like coal and LPG and tell other countries that using our uranium is a bad thing to do? So we are going to leave it in the ground. Well, that's what the loony Greens want, and if we end up with a minority government, they will be arguing that's exactly what we should do. It would be an economic wrecking ball. Then we had some bloke from the Smart Energy Council, the peak body advocating solar, who was on Sky today. He was asked what countries in the world are doing what we are trying to do with Labor. His answer, have a look.
Well, I'm talking about 100% renewable grid. Iceland, Norway, Denmark's about 97%. These are countries, these are advanced Western European countries that are powering their entire economy on renewable energy.
Seriously? Iceland and Norway, comparing us with those tiny countries like them? This is lunacy that we're facing here. So the cards are on the table now, and make no mistake, there'll be plenty of other policy differences in what's going to be a generation-defining election come 2025.